Okay, I am trying something new today. I have gotten over 200 views on my last YouTube video that was published, which is technically the second to last one before this one is up. But I got a lot of comments offering advice on how I should proceed with my podcast, my TikTok, my YouTube, like my general way of doing things here. So I have started taking notes because one of the suggestions was that I should think out more of what I say before I say it, which I don't really like because it feels very contrived, but I understand that me saying it feels like all the time is annoying people, and okay, I can't help that. That's part of the way that I speak. But anyway, I just wanted to make it very clear that this is more of like a diary for me than like a well-edited video and podcast. I know that a lot of my friends are getting annoyed with me for continuously talking about politics, so this is my way of talking about politics where they don't have to listen to me and I can instead rant to people who I don't know online. So please bear with me if it doesn't feel very professional. I am happy that people have been pretty nice so far. I'm not talking about TikTok, I'm just talking about YouTube. People on TikTok are very mean, as I already knew. I have had some good comments, but I just mean like the majority of negative comments have been on TikTok, and I really hate it. I can't control my way of speaking. Eventually I might try to edit better, but I don't have the time for that. Like, I have a job, I have a life outside of this. I knit, I crochet, I do a lot of other things besides this thing that I'm doing. So I don't have time to edit that. Feel free to leave comments with how I can improve. I will read them and I will try to take them into consideration. Also comment any topics you would like me to cover in the future. I'm not sure how many topics I will cover the way I'm covering the one today, with this kind of super structured list, but if you want more of this kind of super dense, informative style, let me know. I'm not sure I want to do it. It takes a lot of my time, but it is probably a good thing. In the future, I will have other people come onto my podcast. I've already had people express interest on coming onto my podcast. I have a lot of friends with political interests, and I know people who would like to speak, so I will probably let them. And please be patient as I learn how to do this. This is my first time engaging in a podcast or YouTube format in any serious capacity. So this will be a learning process as I go about this. Okay, without further ado, first of all, Happy New Year. I hope everyone had a good holiday. Holidays, what with the New Year. I have not experienced the New Year yet when I'm recording this, but I'm sure it will be up after the New Year. The topic I have decided to cover with my first note-taking format is gun control, because I know that that's everyone's favorite topic. So this is going to be a quick summary of gun control in the US and some of my thoughts. I'm not focusing on any specific events or controversies. I'm just focusing on the very general, broad picture type stuff. If there's any specific things you want me to talk about, comment, but otherwise, here we go. I'd say the first thing that you would need to talk about when discussing gun violence is the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is obviously from 1791, and it says that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So there are two ways of interpreting this that are the main ways. Obviously, there are so many ways of interpreting anything. However, there is the pro-gun rights advocates, which say that this means that you can have guns according to the Constitution, citing specifically the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. However, the gun control advocates say that we no longer need well-regulated militias, and so the statement no longer has the context it needs to work as a legal argument. So it basically splits it up. So the pro-gun rights advocates say that the second half is the important part, and the gun control advocates say that the first part, the well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, is outdated. I will add to my commentary at the end of this podcast, but I think people are changing their stances on that based on certain political issues. Anyway, so the next part that we should talk about when discussing gun violence is current gun laws. What is the state of gun ownership in the US at the moment? Current gun laws include background checks, which was the Brandy Handgun Violence Prevention Act from 1993, which essentially means that in most legal gun transactions you have to have a background check, but the loophole around this is private sales and gun shows often do not require background checks. I believe some gun shows do, but some of them don't, and I think it varies state to state. Then also there's the assault weapons ban that prohibited the selling of certain semi-automatic weapons and high-capacity magazines. This law expired in 2004 and has not been reinstated, which is kind of strange, but whatever. And then the last one that I'd like to mention is the gun-free school zones, which means no guns in school zones, but there are exceptions to that as well. I love I love reading this. It's just so interesting to me. Other issues involving gun control. Obviously, gun violence, as I've been saying throughout this. Gun violence in school, public, work, and then also, and I'm censoring this for probably YouTube, because YouTube's the one that has a problem with this usually, but self-unaliving. That is one that's often times overlooked by, I'd say, legislation, which focuses mostly on school shootings. But I think self-unaliving is a really big issue, especially since it's one that often impacts men and is not talked about very often. It's talked about, but not in the context of gun regulation. Finally, there is it's so many issues. No, self-defense versus public safety. So it's the balancing of the idea that people should be allowed to protect themselves, but then also that public safety is an issue if everyone has a gun. I have more thoughts on that later, but that is one of the issues that is brought up in terms of guns. Mental health. Mental health is a big thing because it is one of the reforms that people are looking into, is how to do better background checks to take people's mental health into consideration, because obviously a lot of the people who commit acts of violence with guns are people who are mentally ill and not people in a sound state of mind. So that is a big issue. But then kind of in a similar vein, I would say, is the gun ownership culture in the US, which is everyone should be entitled to have a gun regardless of their mental state, because it's freedom of gun ownership or something. But anyway, there is a lot of kind of the culture of owning guns, collecting guns in the US. And then finally this time, is the NRA, which is, of course, the National Rifle Association, and their lobbying power in the government. So them directly trying to influence the way that guns are legislated in the US. In terms of trends and opinions in this area, there has been a rise in gun sales for personal protection and fear of harsher bans. So in response to crime, but also in response to this kind of threat of legislation, people have bought even more guns in recent years. In terms of the actual opinion, there is a divided opinion. I think most people, I think the majority of Americans agree that there should be better background checks, in terms of, psychological, mental health issues, and not needing like insanely large guns because it's not practical as just like a personal owner thing. But where there's pushback is that on any kind of government legislation or oversight to do with personal property, in this case guns, but there's a lot of worries about confiscation or total bans of guns, and so it's just the idea that the government would have the right in some capacity to come in and take your personal property. This is in general an issue that people have with any sort of government regulation. I know that people in my family have problems with like incandescent light bulb regulation and non-slip bathroom stuff and toilet flushing power. Those are some other things, and it feels silly to lump that in with guns, but it's that kind of like, also taking away gas, and also only selling electric cars. These are other things that I hear people getting angry about, but it's that kind of like super intense government oversight that people just don't like and don't want in their lives. To continue with the reforms, because we were discussing that earlier, people want better background checks. They want a red flag law, which is to do with the psychological issues, which is to seize guns from at-risk individuals, people with unaliving themselves tendencies or unaliving other tendencies. Then also a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. This again kind of goes into the one that expired in 2004, trying to reinstate that. Also having waiting periods for gun purchases. So if someone goes and buys a gun, they can't just take it out of the store that day, but will have to wait until a certain time has elapsed. This can prevent a lot of domestic issues with these weapons, because oftentimes someone's angry, they buy a weapon, and then they go home or they go to somewhere instantly, but with some sort of waiting period, there is kind of an expectation that they might calm down a little bit and rethink what they're doing before something tragic happens. Also, the last one is a restriction on concealed and open carry laws in public. I know different states have different laws with open carry and concealed carry weapons, but I think it would be kind of a more federal regulation for that. I think that a lot of people also factor in societal impacts to violence in this way. So mental health specifically is the one we've been talking about, but also things like gang violence, which is a symptom of larger issues in society. And so how that can impact people's tendencies towards violence. So I think it's just more of a nuanced issue. And then there's the issue of public safety versus constitutional rights. So what are you allowed to do versus what is best for society? Would people be better off if no one had guns? Would people be better off if everyone was allowed to have guns? These are just things that are taken into account when legislation is attempted to be passed by lobbyists. So Obviously, the gun control groups think that public safety would be better off if there were no guns in the general public, and pro-gun advocates would say that constitutional rights should trump public safety, or even that people owning more guns is the answer. Just to go into my personal opinion, I have a couple of points that I want to hit. The first one is hunting. I think that I personally am fine with hunting. I really think that if people want to be able to hunt, they should be able to own guns that they hunt with. I think that there are certain guns that make sense for hunting and some that don't. And in this case, I don't think that you need super high-powered guns for hunting. Give me 1 second. I need to turn off my laundry. Maybe. Is it going to beep again? If it beeps again, I'm going to go. Yep. 1 sec. Ugh, I hate that noise. I'm back. Okay, so hunting is good. Hunting is fine. I think that you don't need an AK for hunting. I don't think you need some sort of grenade launcher to hunt. I don't. I don't think you need an automatic to hunt. It doesn't make sense to me. So the purpose of those guns to me are hurting people, hurting humans, and I do not think that that should be allowed for the general public. In terms of self-defense, I don't really understand the argument unless you're living in a super, I guess, remote town. Like, in Svalbard, the island above the Arctic Circle, you are required to carry around a rifle in case you are attacked by a polar bear, and I get that. In places with a lot of bears, I would understand why you would need to carry a gun for self-defense. In a city, I don't think you ever would need to carry a gun. I think that it would be really crazily dangerous if every single person was walking around holding a gun in a city. Cities are very crowded, and I don't think it would be safe for people to just be carrying around guns all the time. I guess I'm going to skip to a different bullet point because I think the good guys with guns argument fits kind of well into this point that I'm trying to make, because I don't think that good guys with guns will make any difference in a bad guys with guns situation. Like, you walk into a grocery store and the grocery store is being robbed at gunpoint by someone. If you and the 5 other people in the store pull out a gun on this guy, what are you going to do? Are you going to shoot the guy? Are you going to stand there and just hold it at him? If he runs away, would you? Are you just going to wait for the police to get there? Do you think he's going to drop his gun? Is there going to be a shootout? Because in that case, everyone is in danger. You've instantly increased the danger. If there's one guy, chances are he's going to rob the front and then he's going to leave, and you are all going to avoid him because he has a gun. Chances are he will not harm anyone. And also, even if he does, it's one gun with a limited number of bullets. If there's like 5, 6 guns in the store, that is 6 times the amount of bullets. I'm just saying, I don't think that works. The same goes with school safety, like people saying that teachers should have guns. I don't think that's true. I think that maybe there should be some bulletproof things in, like Kevlar. I think that Kevlar should be allowed. Like, if you want to bring bulletproof things to school, I don't see why not. The the reality of the situation is we live in America where we have a really high rate of school gun violence. And if there's going to be guns coming into schools, I think you should have the same amount of gun safety equipment coming into schools. I think that is a lot more effective than just having like teachers with guns in every classroom, or having like a school gun or something like that. Like maybe school security, like more security, that would be fine. I mean, I live in an area where a lot of schools have metal detectors. I think that's a good thing. But in general, I think with all of this, human error is such a huge part of gun violence that like less people should have guns. They should be locked in safes. They should be used for hunting. They should not be out walking around on the street. They definitely should not be in schools. I don't know. Like, everyone should be allowed to have a gun if you want one, but you should be able to bring it out in public. Like, go to a range. Go a hunt in the woods. Like, why are you having it on a street of a city? Like, it's stupid to me. Whatever. I guess those are my thoughts. Thank you for listening. Let me know if you liked the weird bullet pointed, written out, really time consuming structure of the video. I don't know if it made it any better. Anyway, have a good new year, and I will continue to record these every week. I'm trying to record some in advance so that I'm not like rushing around panicking at the last second every week, because I have other things to do, as I've mentioned. But I hope everyone has a good new year, and looking forward to seeing what happens with all of the ratifying the vote stuff in January. Very hyped. Hope we will all stick around to see my thoughts on that when it happens. Maybe I'll figure out how to screen record and do something with that. I could stream. I don't know if I want to. That seems stressful. I like this pre-recorded stuff a lot better. But that's enough of a ramble. Have a good year, everyone.